Hi, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of our 5-day practice marathon, where I share a practice hack every single day for 5 days. And I'm so excited that you are here today to join us today, because today we are going to do a lot of practical things to directly implement the hack I'm going to share. And the practice hack that I'm going to share, I'm especially like this hack because it has meant so much to me, not only in learning the violin but also in so many other aspects of my life, which I will talk about later very soon. But first, I'm going to see who is there today and who is joining us today. So let me know where you are from and what your name is so I can see who is there on the other side. I am just going to check the chat right now to see who is there. And almost there. Hi, Julia, says Jills. I see Sergio is there. Kalin. Kalin said he spilled his tea because he was so shocked that I started talking at once. And Rob says, hi, Julia. Hi, Rob. Welcome back. And Gaz is there. Maria, Laura, Melissa, Tia, Gio, Norman from Costa Rica. You are here first time, right? I see Massimo. I think he's new too. So nice to see some new people. Also great to see people that are joining again, that were joining yesterday as well. I'm so proud of all of you for taking so much time to practice and to really, think about your practice habits and to really make them better and improve at violin playing. So I see that Floyd is joining us, Josh, Marianne, Manu from India, Rhapsody in Blue from Greece, and Andri. What am I doing here? I'm a flautist. I feel like this is one of those standard two-set violin quotes that everybody is posting under their videos. But if you are here as a flautist, you can, by the way, you can actually, like, seriously get something out of this lesson because it is going to be a lot of practice strategy. And I think it is very useful if you practice another instrument. Elizabeth, Eus, Rapollo, Parvati, Marianne, Tracy, Peters. Wow, so many people here. I'm so excited to see that all of you are here today. Today we are going to share about a really important fundamental thing, which is about structuring our practice and making sure that we practice consistently. And if you have ever felt like you need more consistency in your practice, this is definitely going to be a really useful session for you. And if you have consistency in your practice sessions, but feel like you aren't really making the improvement you want to make, or you feel like I could get more out of myself, but I don't know how to go about it, then this session will be really useful for you too. So yeah, definitely stay tuned. Also, in the end of the session, I will share special surprise for those who stay all the way until the end, just like yesterday. So definitely be sure to keep tuned until the end to get your special surprise. So yeah, today we are going to talk about something really, really important to me personally, because it wasn't only important for learning violin, but it was also really important for life in general. And that is the idea of goals, setting goals versus building habits. So I think there's a fundamental difference between the two. And in my personal experience, and what I've seen from a lot of my students, is that you want to set a lot of what you want to focus more on is habits and less on is goals. And I will show you why I think that is the case and how you can do that and how I think you can implement that in your practice session. And I will also give 10 tips to actually build habits instead of goals. So, why do I think goals are overrated? I know this is a little bit of an unpopular opinion, and so many people are actually talk a lot about goals. And I definitely would say I am actually quite like in my personal life, I tend to be a little bit of an achiever as well. And I know, as you probably know from achievers, I think many of you can relate to feeling a little bit like an achiever, because many violin players are actually. They like to challenge themselves, to learn something new, and they want to achieve something bigger or learn something new. You know, if you don't like to achieve something, often you won't take on a difficult challenge like this. So as an achiever, I've always set goals for myself. For instance, learning to play the violin, learning to play the piano, learning to play the guitar, which were the goals I mainly set in my childhood, which I was actually tracking. I always had a diary and I was writing down how much I've practiced every single instrument. So and later in my life, I've also set a lot of other goals, such as building my own music school and company, or doing, working out so many hours a week and having goals in the health and fitness um, part of life. So I've definitely always been a goal setter, and I don't think in general that goals are bad. So definitely, yeah, definitely goals can be really, really useful to think about what you want to do with your life, and it can be a lot of fun. But I also think that there's a downside of setting goals, and especially when it comes to music learning. And I've experienced this myself personally, that actually, if you set goals when it comes to violin learning, it can really be very demotivating. Violin is really, really difficult. Actually, to be honest, I feel like learning the violin and getting to the level you feel like you are proficient is more difficult than building a business and making 5 figures a month. Like, seriously, like, I feel like it is one of the most difficult things to do. Why? Because, there are people that start playing the violin when they are only 6 years old. And these people still practice to this day and feel like they need to improve. Just get an idea of how endlessly difficult it is to learn the violin. You can always keep on learning. And if you set a goal to become a proficient player, you will probably never achieve it, because the better you get, the more you feel like you are incompetent. So you will always feel like you're running towards this end point, which is never going to be there. So this can be really demotivating. So that is the first reason why I think goals are overrated when it comes to music learning. And so we often set goals that are very high, like that are really difficult. For instance, very many people want to learn 4 seasons of Vivaldi, and that can take years to achieve. And how will you feel in the years that you're moving towards this goal? Often you feel like you didn't reach a certain goal yet, and you maybe even feel like you can't play well enough to really enjoy it or something like that, which I notice in so many of my students. So that is another reason goals can really backfire. I also think that if you set goals, you have to rely a lot on your willpower. You will always feel inadequate in a way, like you didn't reach the goal yet, you are not good enough, and you have the willpower and the discipline to keep practicing even though you are not good enough. It can feel really, really tiring, and sometimes you can even go over your boundaries. And the whole point of why we started playing violin in the first place, which is interesting to think about, is often for relaxation, joy, connecting with other people in our lives, and actually to have some passion or some hobby, not to have another obligation where you feel like you never ever practiced enough and never did enough. And this is how so many people feel. I can tell from my personal experience that I have felt so inadequate so very often, and this feeling never goes away because you always have somebody better to compare yourself to. And I also know from teachers in my environment, as I know so many other violin teachers and violin players, that so many people feel like that. They feel inadequate. They feel like they need to become better first. And I would love to know in the chat, by the way, tell me if you can relate, if you feel like you've ever felt like you are not good enough yet, you need to be a better player, you are inadequate, you anything like that, definitely feel free to share in the chat what your experience is. And also, if you can't relate at all, that would also be super interesting to hear your experience. So definitely write in the chat. So yeah, that is the whole point. The little case I wanted to make. What is the problem with goals? And I see some people say, that's me, totally relate all the time. I'm just going to read some of the comments right now before I go on. And Aditya says, I did. I tried some difficult pieces and failed so many times, I almost give up. Some people are watching this when driving. That's awesome. Yeah. I get anxious and feel like I can't if I have to perform. That is what somebody says in the chat as well. I lose what I learn and have to review. And many people can actually identify with what I'm saying, which I'm happy about, because it is sometimes also helping already to realize so many people feel like this, and that this is just a normal part of playing the violin. Because sometimes you feel like all the others feel like they are good enough, but you are the only one that is not good enough. Because it's always so easy to see what other people can do, and it's much harder to see what yourself can do. So yeah. So what I want to make a case for in this specific lesson is that instead, in our practice session, and that is actually like the practice hack, that you stop focusing on goals like learn this piece perfectly or become good violin player. That is like the worst goal to focus on, because you can't ever reach it, because the definition of good will always change. It will always become a higher level. When I have saw myself play 15 years ago at the level I play right now, I would probably have thought I'm a proficient player. But at the level I am right now, I look up to people like Hilary Hahn, and I feel like I'm a total beginner and can't do anything. So there's always a higher level to look up towards. Maybe if you're at the very top, maybe then you feel like you're proficient. No idea what Hilary Hahn feels like. But I definitely think they are also critical about themselves, and they think about Nigel Kennedy, who was doing that and that better. So there's always somebody that is doing something better, right? So yeah. So a proficient player is not a very good goal to have. That is very important. What I want you to do instead of setting goals is setting habits. And that is what I want to talk about today. How to set habits, why I think you should be setting habits. And we are going to set habits for you, your practice today together in this live session. And I'm really happy to hear that so many say, so true, I can really, really relate. And yeah, it's really nice to feel understood. I think only realizing that already helps to realize, okay, wait a second, this is normal, and maybe I am actually not that bad that I think I am, because everybody feels like they are bad. So maybe I am just like everybody else. Maybe, just maybe. So why are habits better than goals? Well, the first reason is that habits are much smaller than goals. If you set a habit, and the habit would be, for me, practicing 5 minutes a day, and it's smaller and it feels much more achievable. If you think about a habit, you think like, oh yeah, I think I can do that. If you have this huge goal, you feel like, okay, I will maybe never achieve it, and you will feel like giving up because it is unachievable, and you move on to something else. Whereas as you set a habit, like maybe practicing 10 minutes a day, that is definitely much more, it definitely feels like much more doable. And if you set a habit, you can actually reach your goals without even realizing you were reaching them. So you might have had some goals in the back of your mind. And if you have a habit, you might, when you do them for a long amount of time, you realize you coincidentally also achieved your goals. So habits help you to achieve your goals in a less rigid and harsh way, where you feel very stressed about it. And also, if you have habits, you can start very small and you can slowly build it up, instead of just feeling this big goal and feeling like you need to do it everything right now. So I can give you some examples. even from my personal life with habits versus goals. So one of the habits I built for myself was, for instance, eating healthy and transitioning from really like lots of sugar, and what was I eating? I was like eating chips. I don't know how to say all the words in, and a lot of meat every evening. And what I actually wanted for myself and for my health was that I was eating more plant-based diet. I wanted to quit sugar and eat and drink only water. So that was quite a big change to make. And instead of saying like, oh, I need to be healthy all the time, I need to be perfectly healthy, because that is something I cannot control. But what I can control is the small habits I do during the day. So I started to put small habits in the day before. For instance, first I just didn't eat cookies anymore, and then I didn't, I started to eat beans every evening, and I started to exchange bread meals for eating oatmeal with apple, like all the little things, that aren't like really big, but that's actually, now I transitioned from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. And this kind of little things add up over time. So that's the point that I try to make. It is not about diet at all in this video, but I feel like that is the whole point of building habits. Habits are so small that you make huge changes without even realizing you're making them. And another part where I had to build a habit was, for instance, when building this business where you are actually watching videos from. So when I was building my first business, which was my online music school, in the beginning it was really, really difficult, because right now there's people watching. But just imagine, at the beginning I was working 60 hours a week and nobody ever cared about what I was doing, because nobody even knew that I existed or found my YouTube channel. So it was also all about building a habit to continuously release a video every single week. And all the small things that I did during that time added up to me being able to do work I really, really love. So that is some examples from the rest of my life as well. So it's not only playing violin. That is what I want to say with that. You can apply this to every part of your life. And okay, so how do we build habits? That is a really important question, and we are getting started with it right now. So first of all, to get into a practice habit, we must make the decision to build a habit, to tell to ourselves, I'm not going to worry about these big goals. I'm not going to feel like I'm not proficient, or that I have to play this song, and if I didn't reach this level yet, I'm not good enough yet, or that as long as I cannot play in an orchestra, I am not proficient. Instead, we need to focus on what can we do right now to enjoy our life and to integrate music in our life. Because if we start to build a music habit, we can directly become the musicians we dreamed of. So if we started to learn a violin, normally we started because we want to integrate music as a part of our life and enjoy it. If we have a little habit of practicing every day and enjoying that practice session, you have basically already achieved your goal in a way. So the first thing is to commit to setting a practice habit. And you can think about, how much do I want to practice every day? That is something to think about. And now I'm just going to check. Too much at the same time, Julia. I have to say less at the same time. Okay. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah. So the first thing is to make the commitment to build a habit around violin playing. So right now, I would love to hear from you in the chat. How long would you like to practice each day in your perfect life? Just imagine you might have a job, you might have a lot of other responsibilities, so you don't have to say 2 hours. But in your perfect life, how much time would you make each day to play the violin and enjoy playing? Let me know in the comments. So this is the first time to do, is to think of what your ideal practice habit would look like. And that can really be different for everybody. For some people, that means 3 hours a day at least. And for others, it means 5 minutes. And others are already happy if they get 5 minutes every 2 days in. So Okay, so now I see some people commenting. Klaus says 1 hour. Kalin says 3 hours. And Agnes says 1 hour. Ragdat says 30 minutes. Bob says 2 hours a day. Marlene, 2 hours a day. Wow, really motivated people. So that would be kind of the ideal version we would be working towards, right? And that is so useful to think about that first. What is the version I want to work towards? Okay, yeah, that is great to see. So many people are really motivated to build a big practice habit where they practice like several hours a day. I think that is the perfect place to go to the first tip of building habits, which is to start small. Often, if we think about starting to build a new practice habit, what I notice for my students that I teach is that they often, at the beginning, want to start with a really big commitment of practicing at least 1 hour a day. But really interestingly, one small thing happens for so many of these people, and that is that if they don't reach this initial goal of 1 hour of practice one day, they feel like they failed and they can better not practice at all. And in the end, you practice way less if you feel like you can only practice if you manage to practice 1 hour. So first of all, it makes sense that if you already practice 1 hour a day right now, then it makes total sense to say, okay, I want to improve it to 1 hour and 30 minutes. But if you right now don't make 30 minutes a day or don't manage to practice 15 minutes a day consistently, maybe that would be the first step, to first try to keep it small. Often we want to make big changes, but it is way easier if we first allow ourselves to get used to a small change and then make the big change afterwards. Another thing what can happen when we set really big goals is that we get this all or nothing mentality. And I think this will kill your practice session. So definitely watch out for your own head if you have this in your head. So the all or nothing mentality is either I practice for 1 hour or I practice nothing at all. And that's how so many musicians feel. Either you have to practice a lot or you practice nothing. But actually, if you practice only 5 minutes, but do it on a consistent basis, that will make a really big difference. And actually, you are depriving yourself or taking yourself that time away that you could actually have been practicing 5 minutes because you couldn't manage an hour. So that is another really important tip to build habits, is to watch out for this voice in your head that says, oh, but I won't manage 1 hour anyway. I won't manage 15 minutes anyway. But maybe you do manage 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is something. Which brings me to the next tip, which is that if you want to build a practice habit, we are going to build a practice habit in a few minutes together for you. We are going to build a plan. So for what you can practice is that you can start with something so small and so easy that you cannot say no. That was one of the best tips I ever got. And it really changes the deal, because sometimes things are really hard. For instance, when I just started recording violin videos of myself, I was very camera shy and I really didn't like to record videos because I don't know, I'm not the person that is naturally in a group of people. I'm more like the listener, not like the person that talks all the time, you know? So I really had to learn that. And I had to tell myself, I only have to film myself for 1 minute and then it's okay, you know? And then when you do it for 1 minute, you're like, oh, maybe I can do 2 minutes. It's not that bad. So you have to do that with practice as well. Maybe you're like, oh no, I don't feel like practicing my skills. Oh my God, 30 minutes of skills. And then you tell yourself, okay, the only thing I need to do is to literally get the violin out of the case and play 1 string a day. Just an open string, nothing more. That is something you can tell yourself if you really feel very low on the scale of how much you practice. Then you can tell yourself, okay, 1 string at least every day as a bare minimum. And if you actually unpack your violin, which is the hardest part of our practice, by the way, I don't know if you already noticed, the hardest part of practicing violin is unpacking your case and putting it on your shoulder. Because if you start practicing, you actually really enjoy it. But the initial, oh no, I don't feel like getting it out of the case. Oh, then I have to, it is like we are a little bit lazy sometimes. So that is what you need to do, to make it so small that you cannot not do it. So maybe right now you can commit to practice to play one string every day at least. So I would love to know from you in the chat right now, are you somebody that practices already consistently every day? Or would you like to get into a consistent habit? So are you more like one of these people that already are really consistent but would like to improve how they practice? Or would you like to become consistent? Let me know in the chat. And GK says, so Julia, do you recommend to return the violin to the case each time we play? No, actually not. I recommend to keep it out, because otherwise we have another obstacle to practice. So I think if we keep it out all the time, we are more motivated to get it out again. So yeah, let's see. Oh, nice. I see some people that are already really motivated to practice every day, and others that want to get in a consistent habit. And I definitely think we are both groups right now in this chat. And what I find really interesting, and that is really nice to go to the next tip in a few seconds, that I see some people that say I practice almost every day are also really active members in our Violin Academy that actually join practice sprints. What I will talk about in a few seconds, because that is a really fun thing you can do to get into a consistent habit. Yeah, but actually a lot of consistent people. That is really great. That a lot of people are really consistent right now. So another thing you can do to get really consistent is a thing that many people in this chat already do, and that is doing practice sprints. But if you've never heard about the concept yet, definitely I will show it. I will explain it. The idea for practice sprint is that you set a timer for yourself every single day, and you think of the things you want to practice in that time, and then you set the timer, you run the timer, and you are only going to practice that what you thought you will practice. And in Julia's Violin Academy, we also combine this with accountability. We set a timer and we are with a group of people, so you can join these practice sprints every day. And we are telling each other what we will practice. Then we will set a timer, we will practice. And then after a practice session is over, we will tell each other what it was like, and maybe we will discuss some problems we had and help each other out with practicing. So that is another really fun thing you can do to get a more enjoyable practice routine and to get into a practice habit. So yeah, I hope that what you got from the talk until now is that it is really important to think in forms of in habits instead of in goals. In my opinion, I think habits are more useful than goals, and that you have to track your progress. Don't have to track how much better you've become, because that is not always visible every day. The only thing you need to track is how much you've practiced every day, and you should only congratulate yourself for the amount of practice you did and not for the amount of progress you made, because progress is something out of our control. It can feel really frustrating if we only focus on making progress. But if we focus on habits, we can congratulate ourselves for the effort we put in. And that is something really motivating. And that is something that will actually help you to keep going for years and years and years. And that will make you into a good violin player if you consistently practice for years and years and years. But now is the other thing that comes in. What is really important is that in the practice time, you actually practice smart. You don't practice random stuff and, I practice a song there and then I practice another song. Oh, there's a random YouTube video. Maybe I can practice that. You need to actually know what you want to practice. So you have to create a structure in your practice routine so that you will actually get better as well from these practice habits. And that is what we can do right now together. So I created a small practice plan that you can download right now, and we are going to create a practice plan for you. And some people in the chat already created a practice plan for themselves. They already know what they want to practice. And I am going to show some examples. I think maybe one of your examples is there if you are one of the people that are using practice plans, because I downloaded some of your practice plan submissions in Julia's Violin Academy. So I can show you what a really good practice plan looks like, and a practice plan you can create to get into a practice habit, because this is the last and maybe most important thing of creating a practice habit, is actually knowing what you will do in the time, because it is so much more motivating if you not only tell yourself to practice so many minutes each day, but also know what you will do during that practice time. So right now, download the practice plan that I just sent in the description link. Maybe it's below this video. In the comment section, you can find it, or to the right of this video if you are on desktop. And then you can download your practice plan over there. That is what a practice plan looks like. And now I'm going to show you also some examples of really good practice plans that I have found in our Academy group. So each week I ask my students to submit their practice plans, and they're such good practice plans. I really love to see them because I always get motivated myself to practice. And okay, and I will show them to you so you can get some inspiration of what you could be putting on that practice plan. The idea is that you create a plan and where you write exactly down what you will do in your practice time. Maybe you have said in the beginning, I want to practice 1 hour. Maybe you want to practice 30 minutes. You want to know exactly what you will do in the time. Maybe you know you want to practice skills for 5 minutes. Then you want to practice these exercises for 5 minutes. You set a time. And actually that really helps to create a more realistic expectation for yourself as well, to what you can achieve in one practice session. Because sometimes we feel like we have to practice everything at the same time, and then we practice nothing in the end. So it's better to focus on a few things and do them right than do everything and learning nothing in the end. Okay, now I will show you some examples of practice plans. And meanwhile, you can download your own practice plan and start thinking about what you could be putting on your practice plan. Can you see my screen right now? I will check if you can see the screen. Elizabeth says shiny object zips away. So that is definitely happening so often. So here you can see a very simple practice plan. I decided to put this in because I think it is such a great example of how simple a practice plan can be. It doesn't have to look fancy or anything like this. This is a practice plan of one of our members, and she wrote down exactly what she will practice during the week. So you can just really use a small sheet of paper and write it on there. You can also use the practice plan template that I just wrote in the chat. And here you can see an example of what a practice plan could look like. I think this practice plan is maybe for half an hour of practice, or I think even a little more like 45 minutes to an hour if I see this. Now here you can see this is a beginner student, and she is practicing here, November. First of all, she is practicing bow circles. So she's practicing bow hold exercises. That is a really fundamental, great thing to practice. And then she is practicing tuning, which is so important as well. The A major scale, D major scale. She is doing third finger exercises to make sure her third finger speed gets faster. And then she's practicing 3 of her songs. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Mary Had a Little Lamp, and We Wish You a Merry Christmas. So always be sure to, from this example you can see, always be sure to put several things in, both skills, exercises, and songs. And if you want help with that, what exactly to put in your practice plan, I would be really happy to help you. And definitely think about joining our May class, because in May we will start a new class at Julia's Violin Academy, and it will help you personally to make a practice plan that is exactly right for your playing experience. Here you can see another idea. So if you are planning your practice, you can first make a compilation of everything you want to be practicing. So this student of Julia's Violin Academy, she put all the books next to each other of all the things that she wants to practice to get an overview of the practice of the week, and then you can put it in your practice plan. And I really love this practice plan. I think it is a nice example of, here there's some things that I told she needs to practice. And then here she was adding her own things that she really likes to practice. And I loved how she was using different colors. I think it is always nice to think about how you can make this into a fun process for yourself. So if you like to use fun colors or stickers, definitely go all in if you are creating your practice plan. And here, this is an excellent example of somebody that was very good with following her practice plan. I think the person is also in the chat right now that created this practice plan. So yeah, this is a perfect example of following up, because it is not only about creating the plan, but also about actually doing what you set out to do. So this is a great example of that. Here, another practice plan. So as you see, there are so many things you can do, to so many different ways to, and so many different things you can put on the plan. But most importantly is that you create a kind of list of boxes, so you know what you will practice, and then you cross off the boxes and the dates on the times that you did practice. Here is maybe a nice example of a student that is more intermediate, and she is practicing shifting exercises. That is something really nice to practice if you are a little bit better at violin playing already. You might want to integrate that in your practice plan. So maybe you are learning third position or fifth position, and you are integrating that in your practice plan. And also be sure to always add skills on your level and arpeggios on your level and pieces that you want to learn. If you put the pieces on the practice plan, instead of feeling like I have to learn it before that time, just put it on the practice plan, practice it every day. Don't worry too much about the results. And at some point, you will be able to play the song if you get into the consistent habit of practicing it every day. Yeah, so, oh, this is another nice example of somebody from Julia's Violin Academy that was actually practicing Suzuki pieces, and she needed a way to make sure that she remembered all the pieces she has practiced before. So she created a small plan for herself to know exactly on which dates she is going to catch up with her old pieces. And here you can see you can also create a plan like that on your phone. And here's another plan. So yeah. Oh, and what I really liked about this person's plan, of Bob's plan, or Robert, he was creating a plan where he actually thought about what he will practice during practice sprints. So there are daily practice sprints in Julia's Violin Academy, but you can also do it by yourself. And he put like, this is what I'm going to do in the first 25 minutes, and this is what I'm going to do in the last 25 minutes. So he not only put the exercises over here, but he also checked what he wanted to practice when. So it's definitely interesting also to put your time and your time planning in there. So yeah, that were some examples of practice. Okay, I'm going to get back. How can I get back to my screen? Wait a second. And I'm back. So yeah, that are some fun ways and ideas to practice, and it is nice to see, right, that people. Oh, wait a second. I have another picture which I like very much. This is another one. This is another great way to motivate yourself, to remind yourself to practice every day. This member of the academy actually put all over her wall all the exercises she wants to practice. So that will definitely be a way to remind yourself what to practice as well. So, and actually she was not the only one. I know there's several people that have been putting like sheet music all around their house and putting it on their walls to remind themselves to practice the certain items. So that is definitely something to motivate you to practice as well. So yeah, I hope this gave you some ideas of how to create your own practice plan. And now I would like you to think about what you are going to practice in the next week. Please write in the chat, what is your practice plan for next week? Maybe you can write down how many minutes you want to spend on each exercise. And what is really important here is to also be realistic. So something you think you can really do every single day or almost every day. So maybe not put too many things into your practice plan, because otherwise it might just overwhelm you and you feel like you can't do it. Yeah, indeed, that was Nancy that created that practice plan all over the wall. Yeah, that was a great example. So let me know in the comments. You can definitely take some time to think about what you want to practice. And I think this is especially really important for people that haven't done this before, because I know so many of the academy students, they have been so good at creating practice plans that probably they don't even need the advice, but that is where the great examples come from. So if you have already done this, big thumbs up. And you probably also realized that it was giving you results. So probably you've seen it in your playing as well, that creating these plans and sticking to them and creating habits really, really works. So definitely, to motivate all the others in the chat, you can let them know, do it. It's important or something like that. So yeah, and if you think about things you want to practice, you can also get a paper right now and put it down for yourself. So the first thing I would like you to put on your paper, if you're thinking about it, is the skills you would like to practice. So first put your skills on your paper. Which skills would you like to practice? Which arpeggios? What are the skills in the arpeggios that will help you forward? Often we already know what we need to practice. We just need to be aware of it. And if you want help with this, by the way, be sure to become a student of mine. I would love to help you with it. And it is definitely, yeah, really, really helpful to have somebody look over your playing and helping you with what to do. So yeah, there's a new class in May starting in 1 week. So definitely, if you think like it would be nice to get help with structuring my practice, but also with practicing itself, because one major way of motivating you to practice and practicing more consistently is accountability, and not doing it by yourself, but actually have a whole group of people you can rely on that will help you to practice, that will actually expect you to be there during your practice session. Because if you schedule your practice like that, the chance is much higher that you will actually do it, because you won't only do it for yourself, but you also want to be there for the group because they expect you to be there. So that is definitely another way to become more motivated to practice. Oh, nice. I see a lot of people are writing down what they want to practice during the next time. So that is really nice to see. So if you've already put the skills and the arpeggios on your plan, you can put the etudes and exercises you want to practice. You can also put the practice goal next to it if you would like to. For instance, you could say, oh, I want to practice Kreutzer etude, I don't know, 7, and I want to work specifically on my collet bowing technique in that etude. That is what you could write down. So first you write the skills, now you write the exercises and etudes that you want to practice. And if you've done that, think about the songs you would like to learn. And with songs, I actually recommend to not actually put the bar too high for yourself, to not choose a song that is extremely difficult, but choose one that is challenging you, but not to the extent that you feel like if you practice for 1 year straight, you will still not play it perfectly. And I see some people saying, you raised me up. And just reading through some comments right now. Oh, Kanin, I love you want to practice being consistent. Come to a practice friend every day. That will be a great way. And Elizabeth is going to practice green sleeves in B flat major. And Old Long Sin, that is what GK is going to practice. So that is great. I see a lot of nice practice ideas over here. And if you are part of Julia's Violin Academy, be sure to go to our group after the lesson and share what you plan to practice this week, and maybe also how you are going to structure your practice even better. Okay, so now I want to ask you a few questions and I want you to think for yourself about the answer. You can write it down in the chat, but you can also write it down on a sheet of paper. And these are questions that will also help you to improve your practice consistency. So the first question, that's what I already asked, is for how many minutes would you like to practice each day? And now the second question is, what event or thing happening or people happening, sometimes it are kids, or husband or something like that, is most likely to distract you from following up with this schedule? What is the thing that could happen that is most likely to pull you off track? And write it down in the chat what will most likely put you off track with your practice schedule. Bob van Dijk says visitors are most distracting. My neighbor, that's such a funny, what kind of neighbor oh, your neighbor is knocking the door. That makes so much sense. Laziness. So what is laziness caused by? Is it something you are working a lot and then you get really tired? My kids' ex and doctor appointments, pets, unexpected phone calls, chores. Yeah, I see a lot of neighbors and visitors. That's so interesting. Afraid to disturb the neighbors. Oh, if you're afraid to disturb the neighbors, by the way, you really need. Where do I have this? I don't have it around, but you really need a mute for your violin. Just, be sure to get a mute because it is going to change your life and it makes your violin very quiet so your neighbors won't hear you anymore. And I see work hours, doctors. So first of all, and then I wanted to ask you a question. What will you do if that happens to make sure you will still practice? So you have to create a strategy for what you will do on the moment that that thing that is distracting you happens, or to make sure that it is less likely to happen. So how will you make it less likely that this will happen? Or will you make sure that if it happens, you will have an alternative, what you will do? For instance, what you could say is that I plan my practice every day at a specific time. For instance, from 7 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night, I will practice. And if I get distracted and somebody walks in, I will tell that person I need to practice right now. Or you could say, if there's an emergency happening, I will practice instead the next day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you're not going to do that. But you can think of a strategy, what you need to do if that happens. Sometimes only being aware of that this is important to you and that you need a strategy like that already helps. Because, for instance, one of the things that distracts me most is family and friends. But actually, it is not them that is distracting me. It is actually me letting myself be distracted. Because if I just kindly tell them, oh, I would actually like to practice for 30 minutes right now. Could you come back in 30 minutes? Then normally it's no problem, but we need to be aware of it before we do this. So we actually are not going to get caught up into a conversation when we actually wanted to practice. So often we can already solve the things. Yeah, without even needing to do very special things. I close all the windows and play. Stay up later at night. And somebody else says, pause the practice time and come back to it when done and continue practice. Yeah, that's another great way. So actually to set a timer for yourself in the beginning of the day, and no matter what happened, you want to finish the timer. That's a nice idea. And you can actually, if it is late at night, you can still practice pizzicato. Just plucking the strings without the bow. Nancy says, I go to 2 practice sprints a day. Yeah, that is definitely helping to help other people help you to be accountable as well. And Bob says, I simply tell them I need to be with Julia. This is my Julia time. Go away, please. That is a very good strategy as well. Kalin says, my strategy will be to reply to all questions from my coworkers via Violin curates. That will teach them a lesson. Okay, so now I want you to give answer to the question. Invite you to give answer to the question, what are you doing during your practice session that is least productive? What are you doing that is holding you back from actually making good use of the time? Because the one thing is taking the time and the other way is making good use of the time. For instance, my personal best way to not make use of the time is to perform instead of to practice. We've been talking about this yesterday, right? I talk about it because I am so guilty doing that. So instead of practicing, I will just play my pieces, play them from the beginning until the end. But if, as we have talked about yesterday, that is not real practice. If we really practice, we only take small parts out and play what is most difficult and only focus on improving those parts. Otherwise, it is performing. So what is the thing that holds you back most during your practice session? What are you doing? What is actually really unproductive and not helping you to improve at all? Losing track of time. So in which way will you lose track of time and just practice pieces? Try to p-check. Not idea. What is p-check? Do I not know that? Having too many songs I want to play. That is definitely a very common one, that we want to practice everything at the same time and then we practice nothing. That is a very common pitfall for us, that we practice everything and nothing at the same time. Because we only learn if we repeat, and repetition can be a little bit boring sometimes, right? But it is the way to improve. Not paying attention to the intonation and playing out of tune. That's definitely a common one as well, that we are just not paying attention. If we practice, we need to be very concentrated and pay attention to what we are doing. Guilty of performance playing, but now focus practicing. So if you know what your biggest weakness is during your practice session, think about how can I make sure, how can I keep myself from that weakness? What will help me during my practice that I won't do this? What could help you? Maybe it could be joining a sprint in the academy and having other people that hold you accountable. Maybe it could be that you are telling yourself each time that happens, you have to stop your practice timer so it doesn't count as practice time. So you will feel a little bit more guilty when you're doing that. So, yeah. Maybe it helps to practice with other people so they can hold you accountable to do it the way you want to do it. Just reading through the comments. So what are you going to do to improve? That is the question right now. What is the thing that will help you to deal with that? Often we know all the answers ourselves. Often actually we don't even need a teacher or somebody. Actually we know exactly what we need to do, but we still don't do it, right? It's like the classic thing of, I want to learn the violin, but I'm not practicing. And you actually know that is the reason you are not moving forward, but still you don't practice. It's we humans are such interesting beings. And Peter says, I will try the sprint and see if I can focus more. That would be great. So if you would like to join the practice sprints in our academy, there will be one at 7 o'clock tomorrow. There will be one at 5 o'clock tonight, right? PDT time. Is that right? Let me know in the comments. I think Nancy, I think Melissa and Nancy will know in the comments if there's one tonight as well. But there will be 2 a day, so you will have really a lot of opportunities to practice, not only by yourself but also with others, and that really helps, because if you have other people, they will if you are by yourself, what I notice often, you put the timer and then you think like, oh, okay, I did 15 minutes. It's good for now. I will do something else. But if there's other people watching you, you feel a little bit worse if you just leave them and you just walk away. So you feel a little bit more conscious. So yeah, this is the link to our May class. You can join our May class and if you want, and then you can get help from not only me, but also a lot of other players to keep you accountable to practice. Yes, and today, 7 p.m. Central Time, there will be the first practice session of today. And tomorrow there will be another practice session as well. 2 practice sessions, an American and European time zone. Let's see what other people are going to do to improve their biggest weakness in their practice. Elizabeth says, be on time and focus on fixing glitch as soon as I hit it, limiting numbers of songs to work on. What is the max, do you think, Julia? I think I would, at maximum amount of song, focus on 3 max. But that would be, I think it is better to focus on 1 or 2 songs because it is much more fun to actually finish something. I think we feel more fulfilled. It's a little bit harder to focus on one thing, but in the end, we have a sense of accomplishment if we finished a piece. Nicole says positive peer pressure. Indeed, that is great to have positive peer pressure. How are you going to integrate that in your life? How are you going to experience that more? Are you going to join practice sprints in the academy, or is there anything else you plan to do to experience this positive peer pressure? And let's see, Monster Gaming says, I need help with shifting to fifth and sixth positions. So yeah, that is definitely something you can practice in your practice plan as well. So you can definitely search for exercises to do that. And Marianne is saying, I have at least half an hour that is absolutely dedicated to relevant techniques and parts in my main piece every day. The rest of the practice time goes to things I feel I wish to learn or improve. That is great. Okay, so now I want the person that is the biggest procrastinator in this whole chat, and you will know if you are like a real procrastinator, you will know you are one, and or somebody that feels like I'm very often not doing the right things, I'm not practicing what I should be practicing right now. Type in the chat what you should actually be practicing if you feel like you are this sometimes. And Peter's page, the sprints are not graded by beginner or intermediate because everybody's practicing what they need to practice at that time. So there's no grading in that way. So everybody is sharing what they are practicing, and we practice for 25 minutes by ourselves, but we check ourselves. We see each other in the screen, so we know if the other person is practicing. And then after the practice time is up, we talk to each other and let each other know how the practice goes. I found that I play better and practice more focused when I'm away from work in an Airbnb because there might be strangers listening. That is such a funny idea indeed, to always play when you think somebody is listening, so you will actually feel more guilty if you are just not concentrating at all. Okay, so yeah, that kind of wraps it up, the kind of practice ideas that I wanted to share today. So as a quick recap, focus on habits and not on goals. Try to always compare yourself with yourself and how much practice you did. So not with how much you improved, but always try to grade yourself or to be happy with how you've done based on the amount of practice you did and not on the results. Don't compare your results to other people or to your own results in the past, because that can make you really, really stressed and feeling like you're never good in it. Instead, practice building a habit and be proud of the habit you have instead of the level of playing you have, and be happy to and be really proud of yourself for each time you actually do that habit. So yeah, and the other takeaway from this lesson is to know what you will be doing during the habit, to create a plan, to not be by yourself and just do whatever random YouTube videos coming your way, but actually knowing what you want to focus on and focusing into that. And what can help with that is getting help of me. I would love to help you with that, or like getting help of another teacher, and really knowing what you want to focus on and what you want to improve. And sometimes you also know yourself already what you want to improve, and that is great as well. And then what could help you with these habits is keeping it small, not putting too much pressure on yourself to do everything perfect from the start, to have accountability from others. So, for instance, to join practice sprints in the academy. And what also helps is to uh, oh, what was the other things that I said? There's so much. There was so much. Yeah, become a little bit better every day. And the other thing, what was important, is plan for failure. So if you expect that maybe something will happen, and that will make you not practice. So plan for that and know what you will do in case that happens. Okay. Oh yeah. So there is somebody still waiting for a surprise. So indeed, really important. And I'm not seeing me should be practicing. Practice long enough. Okay. So the surprise is the following. If you stayed all the way until now, you can get a surprise. If you become a member of Julia's Violin Academy today, I will give you an etude book, which is worth $20. My most favorite etude books for absolute beginners. So definitely, if you feel like you would like to join us and try the practice sprint, if you join within now and 1 hour from now, you will get the etude book as a free gift. That will basically be kind of the whole price of the joining the academy already. So it will definitely be worth it. So you can give the academy a try and see if you like to join us, because I know that one of the things that will help you to practice is to get accountability from a teacher, and that I help you personally to know what you actually need to practice every day, and to have a whole group of people around you that will also help you to keep you accountable and to make sure you practice every day. So that is definitely something you can do. So the last thing we will do before quitting is playing one skill together, and this will be the beginning of your practice routine. After the video, you don't scroll to other YouTube videos or stay on social media, but after the session, maybe this is an invitation. You can continue your practice only for 1 minute. That's the only thing I ask from you, just 1 minute more. So we are going to practice one skill right now, and 1 minute after this session, you don't do anything else but practice. And you will see, if you only ask yourself to practice 1 minute, you will probably already see that you want to practice more. Because if you set a small goal, it is much easier. Small habit is much easier to make it bigger. So right now, let's start by playing a skill together. If you have your violin right now, you can join us for the last skill. You can also leave and get your violin right now to practice for 1 minute. I want to encourage you to do it because it's always nice to have a little practice in, also if it is just for 1 minute. So let's play something together right now. Okay, if you have your violin right now, make sure to play on the G string. Play the second finger on G. Open D. 3 on D. 1. 3. Low second finger on E. Okay, let's do that again. G. Second finger on D. D. Third finger on D. First finger on A. 3. 2. Low second finger. Okay, now you've already played the G major arpeggio. Now continue to practice by yourself. You know what you need to practice because you just wrote a plan for yourself. So do it right now. Really, just practice 1 minute of your plan and you will see it really motivates to do a little bit. So yeah, have a great day and I will see you tomorrow for our next lesson. Same time, we will have a different topic. Tomorrow we are going to play the violin together. So definitely stay tuned and join us tomorrow if you want to play and practice together right away. And see you very soon. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. And see you tomorrow. And if you want to join the May class, definitely be sure to subscribe tonight. 1 hour left to get the etude book as a free gift if you join us. And I would be really, really happy to get to know you. We will start the May class at May 18th and we will get to know you and I will tell you exactly what you need to practice. So yeah, see you later.